Hey YouTube, welcome back to Dwayne's World. So what are we doing today? Well, I'm going to be answering probably one of the most common questions I've been getting since being a YouTuber. And that's, Dwayne, which mower should I go with? Should I go with a 20-inch Calfornia Trimmer? Or maybe I should look at a 25-inch Tru-cut? Or Dwayne, how about the 20-inch Mclane? Well wait, I got one other thing to show you. Or the 25-inch Mclane. I'm going to put it all together for you guys. I'm going to give you all the information you need, so that way you could choose the right mower for you. All right, so welcome back to Season 2, Episode 17 here on Dwayne's World. It is definitely going to be an exciting episode, because we are looking at every one of those mowers as a comparison. Now you may be wondering, Dwayne, didn't you already do a comparison video? And you would be right. I did compare the Calfornia Trimmer to the Mclane. However, there's been a lot of questions and a lot of debating that has come out of that video. And to be honest with you, that has been one of my most popular videos since getting onto YouTube. Alright, so I'm putting together this comparison video. I really wanted to do it in a way that was as neutral and non-biased as possible. So what I decided to do was come up with 7 different categories, lucky 7, and actually rate each of the reel mowers between 1 and 5 in each of those categories. Based on those 7 categories, at a maximum point value of 5 each, that's going to give each reel mower an opportunity to earn up to 35 points. So let's go ahead and take a look at those categories. The first comparison I'm going to look at is cost. Now the cost I'm going to go with is today's MSRP. Now keep in mind, you can purchase these on the used market. However, what I'm going to be focused on is what it would be if you bought one brand new. The second category I'm going to go over has to do with the height of cut adjustment and how difficult or how easy it is to do on each of these reel mowers. Because of the fact that they're residential reel mowers, being able to select the height of cut is very important. Probably one of the most important and exciting categories that I want to share with you guys is comparing each of the quality of cuts with each of these mowers. I got something set up for you guys which I think you're really going to enjoy. Another important category I want to review each of these reel mowers has to do with how well it maneuvers, especially around turns, as every yard is going to be different. Alright, so one of the most important things to keep your reel mower working the way it should is the adjustment between the reel and the bed knife. I'm going to be looking at a comparison of each of these mowers and how difficult or how easy it is to do. All right, one of the more important things whenever you own a reel mower is how you take care of it and the maintenance that goes into it. So I'll be taking a deeper dive into how easy or how difficult it is to be able to maintain your reel mower. I think one of the most important things that people really want to know when it comes to deciding on which reel mower to buy is the quality of that reel mower. So I'm going to talk to you guys about my experiences as well as other people's experiences when using each of these reel mowers and what it's like to actually be an owner. Alright, so full disclosure, this will be one of my longest videos since being on YouTube. But what I do in every single one of my videos is I do include chapters, so if you want to jump around, come back at a different time, go ahead and watch it from start to finish. I appreciate everybody's support, and I'll leave it up to you how you want to watch the content. So now what I want to do is I want to give you guys just kind of a quick overview of each of these mowers so you get a better understanding of what you're looking at. The first mower we're going to take a look at here, this is a 20-inch 7-blade Calfornia Trimmer. Now this is referred to as the RL20H when you look up the model number. Alright, so when looking at my Calfornia Trimmer here as I'm doing my orbital spin, as you guys can see, it is equipped with a groove roller. Now this particular groove roller is sold by Calfornia Trimmer, although you can pick one up from Real Rollers. This one is of a slightly different design. This particular groove roller is actually a split roller design, which is a newer design by Calfornia Trimmer. Now one of the things I'll kind of zoom in here just so you guys can see a little bit better is I have installed what is known as a handlebar extension kit. This basically raises the handlebars 4 inches and puts you at a really good elevated position when it comes to using the reel mower. Alright, so the design for the Calfornia Trimmer is similar to the Mclane's, as it has a drop rear wheel, as you guys can see here. Now the way you raise and lower the wheel is basically by dropping the lever here that then puts the wheel in a downward position that allows the mower to propel. The way you actually propel the mower and have it move forward is by utilizing this clutch system. All right, so when you look here at the propulsion system, it is operated by this lever here. Now what makes the Calfornia Trimmer unique is it's cable operated in order to propel the mower forward and drive the reel forward. And with that, let's go ahead and take a look at the Tru-cut. All right, so here she is. This is the Tru-cut C25. All right, so when looking at the Calfornia Trimmer versus the Mclane, there's a lot of similarities between each of those mowers, although they are both very different. However, on the Tru-cut, it is very different than either a Calfornia Trimmer or a Mclane. And in some of those differences may be really what you are looking for, or maybe something that kind of shies you away, and why you may believe that a Calfornia Trimmer or a Mclane might be a better option for you. All right, so let me kind of talk to you guys about some of the differences here and how you operate a Tru-cut versus operating a Mclane or Calfornia Trimmer. All right, so probably one of the biggest differences on a Tru-cut is really the drive system and how the reel engages. On the Calfornia Trimmer and on the Mclane, it does run parallel with one another, meaning when the drive system is running, the reel is running. Now on the Tru-cut, it does work independently from one another because of the clutch system that is actually housed underneath this box here. So let me kind of just jump in here on how the hand controls work on the actual Tru-cut. So if you notice, there's going to be underneath the handlebars here, 2 of these levers. And basically they each operate a separate part of the mower. The lever on the right side here actually engages the reel. So once you press that in, your reel is set to go and it will continuously run in the on position. If I want to disengage the reel, all I'll do is pull back on that lever. On the left side here, this is your speed control. So this is basically what allows you to propel the mower forward. If you wanted to go ahead and lock it in, you can go ahead and do that. But in a lot of cases, you may want to actually tether the throttle, which it gives you the ability to do, and that's what's really nice about the Tru-cut. All right, on this particular Tru-cut, it is powered by a Honda GX160 motor. It is definitely a fabulous mower. However, if you were to look at one of these brand new, they do come with a new mower made by Champ. The other thing that this mower does have that is an optional feature is a front groove roller that is offered from Rear Rollers. If you do not pick up the groove roller, it does have caster wheels, which are supplied by the factory. All right, so the Tru-cut is offered in a 20-inch, a 25-inch, as well as a 27-inch. Which one is right for you? Well, it's ultimately going to depend on the size of your yard as well as your budget. This third mower here you're taking a look at, this is the 20-inch 7-blade Mclane. It is known as the GR series. Now I'll go ahead and do a orbital spin around the mower as I talk to you guys about what's equipped on this particular mower. All right, so one of the things I just want to point out that is different on my Mclane than most of the Mclanes that are out there is the front groove roller. The front groove roller is somewhat of a hybrid that I put together for my individual application. What you're looking at is actually a Real Roller's bracketry system, but it's equipped with a Calfornia Trimmer split grooved front roller. Now the original roller that came with this bracketry was just a smooth roller that is offered by Real Rollers. However, you can pick up the groove roller option from Real Rollers if you wanted to go with that. All right, so as I spin around the motor here, you guys can see that this particular Mclane is equipped with the Briggs Stratton 550E motor. It is a very good motor. However, I would still choose to pick the Honda GX120 motor over the Briggs Stratton motor. All right, so just like on the Calfornia Trimmer, the Mclane does have a drop rear wheel that basically is lowered by lowering that handle there. When I lift that handle into the elevated position, the rear roller is not engaging. However, if the reel is spinning, you will still see that rear tire spinning. Right, so the way you basically operate the Mclane is through this lever here. This is known as a dead man's clutch. When you basically depress this lever, it pulls a pulley forward, which engages a belt, which ultimately drives both the reel and the drive system. It is a very simplistic design, but it is one of those things that a lot of Mclane owners really appreciate about the Mclane. All right, so this is the last mower here we're going to take a look at. This is a 25-inch GR series Mclane. It is equipped with a 25-inch 7-blade reel. It does also have the Real Rollers front groove roller. Now it also does have an Intech Briggs & Stratton motor. The Intech Briggs & Stratton motor is no longer offered on the Mclanes. However, you can purchase this mower with the Briggs & Stratton that you see on my 20-inch mower, as well as with a Honda GX160 mower. All right, so as I'm doing the orbital spin here, I just want to point out there are actually very, very few differences between the 25-inch Mclane and the 20-inch Mclane. And ultimately, the main difference between the two is the width. So when you look at the width of the particular mower, the 25-inch is obviously wider, so we'll have a longer reel. It's going to have a wider frame, but a lot of the parts that are used on the 20-inch are very, very similar, if not the same, as the ones here on the 25-inch. So outside of the fact that it's wider, let me show you guys on the back of the mower here where it is slightly different, but at the same time using the same parts. All right, so a lot of people, when they look at the back of these Mclanes, believe that the rear tire is actually a single assembly. It's not. In fact, it's actually 3 separate tires that are actually mated up against one another. When it comes to the rear drop wheel, as you guys can see here, it looks very similar to the 20-inch Mclane. And it is similar, however, there's one main difference, is that there is a 6th wheel that is added to the 25-inch series Mclanes. All right, so with that, let's get into the comparison and really break down those categories that I talked about, where ultimately we're going to see who's going to come out on top. So as you guys can see here, I changed the orientation of the reel mowers, and I did it in a particular order, which I'll get to in just a second. But I also wanted to show you guys what the grass catchers look like on each of these particular machines. Now, going back to why I set up in the order that I do really has to do with our first category. And that first category is cost. So the first mower let's take a look at when it comes to price is the Calfornia Trimmer. The Calfornia Trimmer is the cheapest of all the options, but don't let the price fool you, because this may be the mower you want regardless of the price. The price on these generally starts with the Honda configurated motor will be about $1,400. The other thing that's going to change the price generally has to do with whether or not you're going to want a roller. In most cases, I would always recommend a roller regardless of which reel motor you have, and a roller is probably going to set you back anywhere from about $180 to $220 depending on which manufacturer you go with. Pretty much when you look at the mower and the actual roller, you're probably going to be in the $1,600 range. In my opinion, it's an excellent value when you're looking at the Calfornia Trimmer. All right, so the last thing I just want to mention here as it relates to the Calfornia Trimmer on price is you can purchase a 25-inch version of this mower. However, the 25-inch version is different than the 20-inch. The 20-inch is extremely popular because of the smooth operation of its drive system. However, on the 25-inch version, being a commercial mower, the drive system works very differently. Because of that, it's not really a fair comparison when you compare it against the homeowner's model. More people prefer the homeowner's edition, and I wish Calfornia Trimmer offered a 25-inch version that was for a residential application. So with that, let's move on to the Mclane. All right, so when you go from the Calfornia Trimmer to the Mclane, you are going to see a pretty significant price bump. If you want to pick up a 20-inch 7-blade Mclane that has a Honda GX motor, you're going to be looking at about $2,200, maybe a hair under, somewhere between $2,150 and $2,200. If you choose to go with the 25-inch version, you're going to be looking at about $2,500. Now, in both those versions, they are going to have the Honda GX motor. If you want to save a little bit of money, you can probably save about $200 if you choose to go with the Briggs Stratton version, if that is your motor of choice. However, in most cases, I would recommend spending the extra money and buying the Honda GX version. Now, even though it comes in both the 20-inch and the 25-inch version, there are a few more options. One of the options I really like on the 25-inch version is you can get it in a 10-blade reel configuration. Now, if you want to take it even a step further than that, you can also go with the Greenskeeper model. That'll probably set you back about $2,700. The Greenskeeper model gives you more flexibility when it comes to height of cut, but it won't necessarily give you more adjustability when it comes to higher heights of cut. But when you're looking at a lower height of cut, there's more flexibility to really dial in that height of cut. And with that, let's go ahead and take a look at the last mower, which is the Tru-cut. So last but not least, let's talk about the Tru-cut as it relates to price. Now, when looking at the Tru-cut, it is going to be more expensive than any of the other reel mowers that I'm showing you in this comparison. This particular reel mower is a 25-inch version. Now, the Tru-cut is also offered in a 20-inch version, 25-inch version, as well as a 27-inch version. Now, when looking at the 20-inch version, you can pick one up for about $2,500. The $2,500 version, though, does come with the Honda GC motor, which is a good motor, but it wouldn't be necessarily the motor I would pick. The motor I would pick is the Champs motor, which would then set you back about $2,700. The reason why I would pick the Champs motor over the Honda GC motor is because of the configuration. It's much more similar to design of the Honda GX motor, and the Honda GX motor is definitely proven itself over the years. If you're looking at a 25-inch version, it definitely is going to raise the price. You're looking at about $3,100 when you're looking at a Champs equipped Tru-cut that has a 25-inch reel. Now, when looking at the 25-inch reel, you can also opt for a 10-blade configuration, which will then raise the price about $200, making it about a $3,300 mower. Looking at the last version of this particular mower, that is the C27, which has a 27-blade reel. But the 27-inch model will set you back about $3,500. Again, if you want to go for that 10-blade option, it will set you back about $37,000. Again, all these prices are before any shipping and handling, and it does need to be taken into consideration whenever you're purchasing a reel mower. So with all those things being said, let me kind of talk to you guys how I'm going to score each of these mowers. All right, so first mower up, Calfornia Trimmer, and I'm giving the Calfornia Trimmer a 5 out of 5. just because of the initial cost. What it costs you to purchase one is much more or less expensive than any of the other mowers. All right, next mower up, the Mclane. The Mclane, in my opinion, gets a 2. The reason why is I feel like it's very overpriced. Now, I know the price of everything has went up over the last couple of years. The difference in price between a Mclane and a Calfornia Trimmer in years past was only about $100 or $200. Now there's almost a $500 difference between those two mowers, and I really don't understand why, because of the fact that the Mclane is the exact same mower that it has been over the last 20, 30 years. So it's surprising how much they're asking now for the Mclane. So because of that, I have to give the Mclane a 2. All right, the next one, the bigger brother here, the 25-inch Mclane. You know, kind of along the same lines, although I'd probably maybe give it a 3. And the only reason why I would give it a 3 is because I could see the value in a 25-inch mower. When you look at a 25-inch mower, there are very, very few 25-inch mowers that you could purchase at that price. So I think the 25-inch version is a better value, and you may want to consider the 25-inch version if you're looking at that. All right, so last mower is the Tru-cut. Now the Tru-cut I gave a 3 out of 5. Now I don't want you guys to think that a 3 out of 5 is a bad score. A 3 out of 5 is a good score. However, I feel like the price now is starting to get to a place where it's going to be outside of most people's budget. But if it's within your budget, I think it's absolutely a mower you should look at. All right, so one of the things that makes a reel mower, a residential reel mower, is how you adjust the height of cut. On a residential reel mower, you have predetermined heights of cut that are done through an actual height of cut adjustment that you can make on the mower. I think this is a very important feature as it relates to any reel mower, so I like to dig into each of these reel mowers and show you guys the height of cut adjustments and which one I think is the best of the bunch. All right, so let's go ahead and take a look here at the height of cut adjustment bar here on the Tru-cut. One of the things I really like about it is just simply how high it is up off the ground. You know, on a lot of the other reel mowers, it's down lower near the actual front roller or the actual side of the mower. It's nice that it's up in this upward configuration here. It really allows you to be able to change the height of cut without ever having to even bend down. All right, so the way you raise or lower the height of cut is simply by moving this lever. It's spring loaded, as you guys can see there's a little spring. When I basically press it back here, now I can lift it to be able to raise the height of cut, or I can lower it to lower the height of cut. Now let me show you guys exactly what's happening anytime you lower or raise the height of cut. The way that the actual height of cut adjustment bar works, as you guys can see, whenever I'm raising the height of cut, it's moving that front bar forward. And when I'm lowering the height of cut, it's moving it closer to me. What that's doing is raising and lowering the front roller, which then ultimately is going to change the height of cut. Very simple design, but definitely works very, very well. All right, so the way you raise and lower the height of cut on the Mclane is through this adjustment bar here. If you notice, there's little notches that actually are cut out here. Now, some people believe this bottom notch here is an actual height of cut setting. It is not an height of cut setting. What this basically allows you to do is be able to remove this entire bar, you know, from this fixed post anytime you need to actually service it or remove this bar from the mower. Now, I have seen some people actually set their mower to here and mow with it, and I'm not saying it won't work, but it wasn't the way that the manufacturer actually had designed. The way that this actual height of cut adjustment works is there's little notches here, and there's 4 of them. Right now, the way the mower sits, it's at its highest setting, and in order for me to actually lower it, I'm going to basically lift up on the bar and be able to move my actual roller up or down. And that's simply how you go ahead and raise or lower the height of cut. Now, one of the things you can do to increase the flexibility when it comes to increasing the number of ranges when it relates to height of cut is you can raise or lower the roller by dropping this from one spot to another. If you look, it's kind of hard to see because it's blocked by the bar. There are basically 3 holes here. Now, the manufacturer has set it up in the owner's manual, depending on where you line up your rear axle, whether it's going through the middle hole or the top hole, it's going to change the height of cut settings that you're getting out of this adjustment bracket. What's important to remember, though, is right now, with it being in the most upward position, that's going to give you the lowest height of cut, and those are the 4 settings that you'll have on that lowest height of cut setting. Now, the 25-inch Mclane is exactly the same way, so I'm not going to go ahead and repeat myself, and I'm just going to move on to the Calfornia Trimmer. All right, so when you look at the Calfornia Trimmer, it actually looks very similar to the Tru-cut, but it's just mounted down lower. And in fact, it actually works very similarly to the Tru-cut, where you do have this little spring-loaded lever, and you're basically going to just move this bar up or down. So basically, when I go ahead and depress it in the outer position, now I can go ahead and raise the bar or lower the bar to be able to increase or lower the height of cut. The more I move the bar into this position here, moving it forward, it's going to increase the height of cut. If I move it towards the back position, it's going to lower the height of cut. Now each of these individual holes here are a reflection of the actual height of cut measurement. For example, where I had it set there was 3/4 of an inch. All right, so with all those things being said about the height of cut, let me go ahead and give you guys my score on how I rated each of these mowers. All right, guys, so let's kind of break down the height of cut adjustment bar. Now, again, I know it sounds like something very, very simplistic, but it's something that is important anytime you're reel mowing. Height of cut is extremely important. Now, I'm going to kind of go through each of these mowers as I did with the cost and assign it a score from 1 to 5. If you look here at the mowers, the Calfornia Trimmer, I'm going to give a 4 out of 5. Pretty good settings. I definitely like the range. Only thing I would say is that it can be a little bit finicky sometimes when you're moving that bar in and out, but a very, very good setup. So now let's talk about the Mclanes. Now when it comes to the Mclanes, I actually gave it a lower score. I gave it a 2 out of 5. The reason why I gave the Mclane a bad score of 2 out of 5 is just because of the lack of versatility whenever you're trying to adjust the height of cut from really low to really high. Again, works well, but can definitely be improved. All right, so last mower up, the Tru-cut. In my opinion, the Tru-cut gets a 5 out of 5, that's right. And the reason why a 5 out of 5 is because where the height of cut adjustment bar is, meaning where you go to adjust it, it's right there at the top of the mower. Couldn't get much easier than that. You don't even have to bend down. And the versatility in being able to mow pretty short and mow pretty high. So you don't have to change anything on your mower besides moving that lever. And that's really, really nice whenever you're mowing and you're wanting to alter the height of cut for different applications. All right, so on this particular segment of the video, the Tru-cut wins by getting a 5 out of 5 versus the Calfornia Trimmer that gets a 4 out of 5 and the Mclane a 2 out of 5, all when it relates to the height of cut adjustment. Next up in the comparison is the quality of cut. That's right, and let me show you guys what I've set up here. Let me go ahead and turn it around and give you guys a better view. All right, guys, so as you can see here, I've separated the mowers with these small orange caution cones. Now, I may have to readjust the caution cones, but basically what I'd like to do with each of the mowers is run 3 separate passes, 2 in one direction and 1 in the other. And then what I'll do is I'll take those caution cones and kind of putting them at the edges of each of those 3 passes. I also plan to leave a portion of the grass uncut between each of the mowers, so that way you get a clear sight of which mower did which pass. So with that, we're going to go ahead and start with the Tru-cut. First pass done with the Tru-cut. Again, 3 passes, and I'll be going in the same direction with each of the reel mowers just to give you guys an idea of what it's going to look like. And with that, let's go ahead and jump on to the Mclane. Disclosure, when I ran that Calfornia Trimmer on that pass, my height of cut wasn't set right. It was way over an inch. I think it was set to like 1.25 inches. So now I'm going to rerun it again at 3/4 of an inch. If anything, it probably just burned into the stripes a little bit more. But again, what I'm really looking at, although stripes are important, is really the quality of cut. So with that, let's go ahead and give it another pass. Sorry about that. right, so there we are. The Mclane is all done. So now we'll go ahead and take a look at each of the mowers and see how well they're performed on their individual stripes of grass. Let's go ahead and take a look here and see how we did. Overall, looking pretty good. Almost looks like I ran double stripes. Let me go ahead and turn it around. All right, so first up here is the Tru-cut. Just to remind everybody, we have cut grass, cut grass, cut grass, not cut grass. All right, now let's go ahead and move over to the Mclane. Again, cut grass, cut grass, cut grass, not cut grass. And I'm sorry, just to clarify, that is the 25-inch Mclane there that you're looking at. All right, now let's go ahead and move over to the Calfornia Trimmer. Okay, on the Calfornia Trimmer, we have cut grass, and not cut grass. Now, one of the things I will say is just because of the fact that I had made that error when it came to the Calfornia Trimmer, one of the things that I'll tell you has shown up is the fact that you can really see the wheels and the pinstriping that those particular wheels have on the Calfornia Trimmer. Just an important point, and I'll bring it up as we continue to move on here. All right, and the last one is the Mclane 20-inch. Again, cut, 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 not cut, and not cut. All right, let me take you guys in for a little bit of a closer look, though, on the actual turf and show you guys what it actually looks like. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to find the most dense part of each of these passes just to really give it a good example from mower to mower, so that way you can see how well it actually performed. All right, I'm going to try to zoom out here as much as I can just so I can show you guys what it looks like. So again, right here is all of our cut turf, and right here is where it hasn't been cut. Let me go ahead and zoom in a little bit more just to give you guys a better view. So as you guys can see here, this is where it hasn't been cut, and this is where it has been cut. So did a pretty good job, I'll say. Let me kind of move over here more to the cut side. I am not seeing very many stragglers at all. It looks really good. The turf looks really healthy right here. Again, on this side that hasn't been mowed, you can see that it's a lot more frizzy. It obviously is not clean all the way across. All right, so then when I move over here to the cut side again, it is definitely looking really good. Let me see if I can zoom in even more. As you guys can see here, you can definitely tell that this part of the turf has not been cut. I'm gonna move over here to the cut side, and it's definitely a lot cleaner, what you can see here in the actual turf. Again, 3/4 inch height of cut, looking pretty good. All right, and with that, let's go ahead and move over to the Mclane. All right, so this is kind of the dividing line between the cut grass and the not cut grass. So on the left side here, this is all uncut. On the right side here, this is cut. So let me go ahead and zoom in here and give you guys a little bit. All right, so as you guys can see here on the left side, it has not been cut. On the right side, it has been cut. Again, let me kind of go ahead and zoom in even closer and give you guys a better view of what the quality of cut looks like. All right, so this part of the lawn here has not been cut. And on the right side here, this has been cut. So overall, the quality of cut is pretty nice. However, I am still seeing a couple of stragglers, but still, overall quality of cut is definitely looking good. Cannot complain about the Mclane 25-inch. It definitely looks like it's doing a great job and has a really nice quality of cut. All right, and with that, let's go ahead and move over to the Calfornia Trimmer. All right, as you guys can see here, on the right side of the screen, which is over here, this is the part that has not been cut. This is kind of my dividing line here where I ran my pass, and this is the cut part of the lawn here, as you guys can see. Let me go ahead and zoom in even closer, give you guys a better view. All right, so again, this is not cut, this is cut. And all right, and an even closer of a look, again, uncut versus cut. All right, so with that, let's go ahead and move over to the last mower, which is the 20-inch Mclane. Here you can tell that this side here is uncut versus this side being cut. Pretty much a line right there. There's gonna be the dividing line between the two. All right, so with that, let me go ahead and zoom in even closer. All right, so again, as you guys can see there, uncut versus cut. Again, uncut versus cut. This is all uncut turf. And then on the left side here, it is definitely much cleaner, as you can tell. So on the 20-inch Mclane side here, let me kind of just show you what it's looking like from this side. Again, ignore the parts of the lawn that are yellow. Again, that's for my herbicide that I sprayed. But you can clearly see a clean definition between what's cut and what hasn't been cut. And I really have to say, when kind of going across the lawn here and moving over here to the Calfornia Trimmer, these two look really, really good. Now, maybe the stripe action isn't as nice as the other mowers, and that probably has to do with the weight of the mower. However, the quality of cut, though, between the Mclane and Calfornia Trimmer are so similar, I almost would bet it's the same mower when you're mowing from one side to the other. So I really, really like it. It's obvious that it's been mowed, and it's a very, very clean cut. All right, so now when I come over here, this is the 25-inch Mclane that had done these cuts. When you're looking at the passes that are a little bit darker, the turf is definitely a little more dense. As we're looking down the middle stripe here, not as dense, but again, still a really, really nice quality of cut. All right, so now kind of when moving over to the Tru-cut side, this kind of just gives you an example again of what the Tru-cut looks like. Very, very happy with the quality of cut here. It's definitely looking on point. All right, so I gotta be honest with you, it's really, really difficult for me to pick which mower gets a 5 out of 5. You know, does a mower have to have a 5 out of 5? No. But I think when kind of weighing out everything, the mower I would choose that would have a 5 out of 5 as it relates to quality of cut is the Tru-cut. Yes, I would give the Tru-cut the best quality of cut. Now, I don't feel like it laid down the best stripes. However, the quality of cut when I'm looking at the turf look really, really nice. You know, I probably also would have gave the Calfornia Trimmer a 5 out of 5. And the only reason why I would give it a 4 out of 5 instead of a 5 out of 5 is because of the tires. Now, I know the tires have nothing to do with the reel, but it does affect the way the lawn looks when you are mowing, because you are seeing those tire stripes, especially if you're mowing at a higher height of cut. Now the Mclanes, both the 20-inch and the 25-inch, had done a really, really nice job. I would also give those mowers a 4 out of 5. The reason why the Tru-cut, I would give a 5 out of 5 again, it's just a little bit nicer cut. It definitely lays down nice stripes, and it definitely does a great job on my lawn, as you guys can see there. All right, so now what are we gonna do? We're gonna move on to maneuverability. You know, I think this is really important, and I have a couple ideas on how I wanna test each of these mowers. All right, so what I plan on doing now from a maneuverability standpoint is this is really the part of my lawn that really is the only area that I have curves and corners on. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna run each of the mowers, and this is not about quality of cut, so I may be going over the same passes over and over again, but I just wanna illustrate to you how difficult or how easy it is to use a particular reel mower when you're going around bends and going around corners. I think this will give you a really good idea of how the mower will perform if you do have a lot of turns on your particular part of the lawn. And with that, let's go ahead and see how they do. First one up is the Tru-cut. All right, so that's the Tru-cut. Next up, 25-inch Mclane. All right, 25-inch Mclane down. Now let's try out the 20-inch Mclane and see how well that does. Mower up, the Calfornia Trimmer, last but not least. Now let's get into the actual scoring of the mowers. Again, remember 1 being worst and 5 being best. Let's start out with the Tru-cut since it was the first mower that I actually used. I would actually rate the Tru-cut the highest in this group, and I would give it a 5 out of 5. And the reason why I would give it a 5 out of 5 is although I did not feel as comfortable getting close to the concrete, one of the things that made it very easy to use, and I have to think about the real life application, is the fact that you could really tether the speed as you're going around turns, as you're approaching an object. It really makes it that much easier to really keep that mower in your control. All your controls are at your fingertips, and it really helps out whenever you're mowing around obstacles or if you have a yard that is not just an open field. What really makes this particular feature nice is that you can actually run the reel at full throttle, not compromising your quality of cut. This is because of that clutch system where you can independently operate the reel from the actual drive system. So for that reason, I'm going to give the Tru-cut a 5 out of 5. Now, when it comes to the Mclanes and the actual Calfornia Trimmer, they both did extremely well as far as maneuverability. I would rate each of these mowers at a 4 for each of them, just because of the fact that I felt very comfortable getting very close to the concrete, and for the fact you could still operate the reel with the rear drive system in the up position. The downfall I felt to it is that once the wheel's in the upright position, you do have to push that mower yourself to really kind of move it around whatever object you're trying to maneuver around. Again, it's not that you can't do it, it just requires a little more effort on your part. And for that, I got to knock it down just slightly, which is why I'm giving it a 4 out of 5. And with that, let's go ahead and move on to the next category. All right, so this next category is really near and dear to my heart because of the fact that it has to do with how you adjust the reel to bed knife and how difficult or how easy it is to do on any one of these particular reel mowers. Now, whenever you're doing a reel to bed knife adjustment, I know this is something that can seem a little intimidating, especially if you're just getting out to reel mowing. So let's see how each of these mowers perform and how difficult or how easy it is to be able to perform this operation. We'll go ahead and start with the Tru-cut. Right, so on the actual Tru-cut, let me go ahead and move my camera around here. You are going to have to remove the chain guard cover that you see here. Once you get that off, and I'll go ahead and just swing back the camera around to the other side here. All right, so once you have the actual chain guard off on the other side of the mower here, see, you're going to see something very similar underneath that chain guard, which you're seeing on this side of the mower here. All right, so there is a tool that Reel Roller sells to make the reel to bed knife adjustment a little bit easier, and I'll go ahead and pop it up here on the screen. What that spanner tool is going to allow you to do is be able to lock it in here where you can then clock the reel to bring the reel to bed knife tolerance a little bit closer. Now, one of the things I will say is I did recently do a back lap on this particular mower, and one of the most difficult things of that back lap was setting the reel to bed knife. I would say that the difficult part about it is even though you get your reel set where you want it, once you start tightening down these bolts, those tolerances change. And that made it really, really difficult for me to be able to dial it in. So although I was able to get it done, I would definitely say I'm not looking forward to the next time I would have to adjust the reel to bed knife on the Tru-cut. It's just the reality of the machine and something you definitely need to take into consideration if you're deciding on purchasing a Tru-cut. All right, so now what you're looking at is the 20-inch Mclane. Now, on the Mclane motors, what you're going to have is you're going to have what they refer to as a pork chop that holds in the reel. The pork chop is held in by 3 half-inch bolts that are on the outside of the reel. Now, you do have to remove the chain guard in order to actually access 2 of those bolts. Now, even though the pork chop is held in by 3 separate bolts, there is only 2 of the 3 that you should be using to adjust the reel to bed knife. Let me go ahead and zoom in here and give you guys a better idea of how you need to set the reel to bed knife. All right, so basically what you're going to do is once you have these loosened, you're going to do basically to decrease the tolerance between the reel and bed knife is you're going to tap using either a hammer or a screwdriver in combination with the hammer on this top part of the actual bracket. That's going to bring in the reel to bed knife tolerance a little bit closer. And once you're happy with where it's set, you can go ahead and lock it in with the half-inch bolts here. Now, sometimes what you need to do is you may need to loosen the reel to bed knife clearance, and basically what you'll do is you'll basically use your screwdriver and tap in an upward direction so that way you can loosen the tolerance between the reel to bed knife. Even though this method absolutely works, it can be a little bit finicky to really be able to dial in the reel to bed knife, and that's where I think a lot of Mclane owners wish they had a different setup, but it is the one you have to deal with if you want to purchase a Mclane. All right, so now up is the 20-inch Calfornia Trimmer. Now, the way you adjust the reel to bed knife on the Calfornia Trimmer is unlike any of the other 3 mowers that I showed you. What you have is you have these little posts on either side of the reel. And basically what you're going to do is you're going to use like a crescent wrench, and you're going to be able to turn it to be able to increase or decrease the tolerance. What I really like about this setup, it's much closer to how a greens mower works, where you could really dial in the reel to bed knife clearance by giving slight turns to each of these posts. Now you have 1 post on each side, so that way you could really dial in the reel to bed knife on either side of the reel. To me, this is probably one of the best setups you can find on a residential reel mower. All right, so now that we kind of talked about how you adjust the reel to bed knife on each of those particular mowers, let me talk to you guys about where I would rate each of these mowers from 1 to 5. On the Tru-cut, I would give it a 1 out of 5, believe it or not. I really do not like that setup. However, it is something you have to live with if you decide to purchase a Tru-cut. All right, so next up, the Mclane. I would actually rate each of the Mclanes exactly the same, being that the 20-inch and the 25-inch are the same. Now, where I would rate it, though, is I would probably give it a 2. Yes, that's right, a 2 out of 5. All right, so one of the reasons why I'll have to rate it a 2 out of 5 is because of the fact that although it's easier than the Tru-cut, it still can be very finicky, and it really doesn't allow for you to really dial in the reel, the bed knife, as much as you would probably want to when it comes to that reel to bed knife adjustment. All right, and with that, let's go ahead and move on to the last mower. And that is going to be the 20-inch Cal Trimmer. The Cal Trimmer, I would give a 4 out of 5. Now, the reason why I would rate the Calfornia Trimmer a 4 out of 5 is because of the fact that it's very simple to be able to adjust the reel to bed knife. Now, although I may say it's simple, it still takes time, and it still can be done wrong if you don't know what you're doing. However, what I found with that particular setup is it really allows you to really dial it in and really be able to set your reel and bed knife evenly from one side to the other. The only reason why I wouldn't give it a 5 out of 5 is I wish it had a similar setup to what you see like on a lot of greenskeepers, where you can kind of keep track of how many clicks or how many turns you may have made on one side or the other. Because of the fact that you can't necessarily do that on this particular Calfornia Trimmer, you kind of have to estimate how far you may have turned that particular knob. That makes it a little more difficult. I just wish there was a better way of keeping track of how many turns you made so you could really balance out the left side from the right side. Outside of that, I really like that setup, and it is absolutely the best of the 4 mowers that I'm picking today. So with that, let's go ahead and move on to the next category. All right, so now let's talk about a very important aspect which has to do with the maintenance on any particular reel mower. Now, when you're talking about maintenance, when it comes to the motor is going to be the same regardless of what type of reel mower you choose to go with. Meaning you got to have to change the oil, you're going to have to change the spark plug, and you're going to have to change the air filter or maybe even clean the carburetor from time to time. That is a constant regardless of what type of reel mower you decide to go with if it's gas powered. Now, when it comes to the actual maintenance of the reel mower, it's going to be a little bit different from mower to mower. All right, so with that, let's go ahead and take a little bit of a closer look at each of these mowers and see what is required for you to be able to maintain your individual reel mower. All right, so let's go ahead and talk about the Tru-cut. One of the things I really like about the Tru-cut is that there are no belts that have to be replaced. Everything is chain driven or driven through a clutch. Now, with that being said, as long as you lubricate your chains properly, your chains will last for years to come. Now, when it comes to the actual clutch system, the clutch system will wear out over time, and it is something that's going to need to be adjusted, as well as something that may need to be replaced at any given point in the mower's life. Now, another thing you're absolutely going to need when you have a Tru-cut is you are going to need a grease gun. The grease gun is going to allow you to be able to grease certain fittings, and I'll kind of zoom into one to give you an example. If you can look right there, there's a grease fitting there. If you look over on the side of the mower, there's a grease fitting there. There's a grease fitting on the actual reel itself. So there's numerous areas on the Tru-cut that are going to have to be greased. Now, greasing happens about once a month on average. Now, it can probably be a little bit more or less than that depending on how often you use the mower, but it is something you are going to want to do if you decide to own a Tru-cut. Again, maintenance on these particular mowers aren't that bad, but it is something you do have to consider when you are looking at a Tru-cut. Now let's go ahead and take a look at the Mclane. All right, so the nice thing about the Mclanes is really there's one main thing that you're going to have to replace to wear items, and that is that belt, which isn't even that difficult or expensive to actually replace. Now, on every one of the Mclanes is there are no grease fittings, so you do not have to grease the mower like I showed you guys on the Tru-cut. In fact, even the bearings on a Mclane are enclosed, meaning they do not have to be greased. Now, it doesn't mean they can't wear out over time. However, it's not a common part that would fail as long as you are properly taking care of your mower and your reel to bed knife adjustment is set properly. A lot of times the reason why a bearing fails is because the reel to bed knife tolerance is too tight and it really overheats that bearing, and that ultimately is going to lead to failure. But if you don't do that and you don't have that problem, your bearing should last you quite a bit of time. Again, it's one of the strongest selling points on the Mclane is there's very little maintenance as it relates to the actual reel mower itself. Now, there are a couple of chains that you're going to have to keep lubricated, but that is the case with every reel mower regardless of which one you decide to go with. All right, and with that, let's go ahead and move over to the Calfornia Trimmer. Now the Calfornia Trimmer is kind of in between the Tru-cut and the Mclane, meaning there is a belt that you'll have to replace over time, which is underneath this cover. Yes, there are chains that have to be lubricated, but there's also a couple of grease fittings that have to be serviced. You're going to find 2 on the reel, and you're going to find 1 on each of the tires. Not as big of a deal when it comes to actual maintenance, but it is something you're going to have to consider, just like you will with the Tru-cut. You are going to need a grease gun in order to properly service your individual reel mower. Now let's go ahead and take a look at the 25-inch Mclane. On the 25-inch Mclane, it is exactly the same as the 20-inch Mclane, meaning the only real wear item you have to worry about is the belt. All right, so outside the belt, like I mentioned, just like with every other reel mower, you're going to want to keep your chains lubricated. But outside of that, that's really where the Mclanes tend to shine, is from a maintenance standpoint. So with that, let's go ahead and tally up the scores. All right, so the way I would actually score each of these mowers from a 1 to 5 is I would give the Tru-cut a 3 out of 5, meaning not the worst thing to have to service, but there are things you're going to have to be mindful of. The clutch system is what really kind of brings it down slightly for me on this particular machine, just because of the fact that that part is going to have to eventually be replaced and is not necessarily something that's the easiest of things to have to do. Now, when it comes to the Mclane, whether you're talking about the 20-inch or whether you're talking about the 25-inch, I'm going to give the Mclane a 5 out of 5, just because of the fact there's very, very few parts that you actually have to service, with the exception of the belt and lubricating your chains. Now, on the Calfornia Trimmer, I'm going to rate the Calfornia Trimmer a 4 out of 5 as relates to maintenance, meaning you do have to still take care of a belt, grease a couple of fittings, but it's not as bad as the Tru-cut just because there's not as many fittings and they're fairly easily accessible on the Calfornia Trimmer. So with that, let's go ahead and move on to our next category. What I want to talk about is quality. Yes, build quality is really what I want to go after. So let's go ahead and take a look at the Mclanes first, only because of the fact that I've seen a lot of complaints when I'm looking at the lawn forums. Now, again, I did purchase my Mclane here on the secondary market. However, it was brand new out of the box. So right now, I would say it's about a year old. Now, some of the complaints I've read about have to do with the rear tires, have to do with the paint, have to do with the quality of cut, not really being right from right out of the box. And I can't say necessarily that I had that same experience. The only thing I would say about the 20-inch Mclane here that it's on my right is I felt like the reel to Bedknife adjustment or the reel to Bedknife setting from the factory wasn't really as true as it could have been. Meaning on one side of the reel, I felt like it was not perfectly straight and it was actually lower on that side. Generally, whenever you're setting your reel to Bedknife, you want it to be the same from left to right. I don't know how necessarily it's going to affect the overall life of the particular reel, but it is something I did want to mention because of the fact that I did not see that coming and thought it would have been perfect right out of the box. I've owned other Mclanes prior to these, and when I've replaced the Bedknife or a reel and really have set it, it has been the same on left to right. So I don't know why in my particular case it came out, but I would be very frustrated if I had spent $2,000 on this particular mower and I would have noticed that the reel to Bedknife wasn't really the same on left to right. Just something I wanted to point out. Now, when it comes to the actual paint, I've not seen any issues yet with the exception of one area, and that has to do with the reel. All right, so when I did a back lap a couple weeks ago, I noticed that the paint chipped on my reel that wasn't there prior. I can see it now that it's going to start to flake, and then over time, that's probably going to happen on other parts of my reel. So it is really important that you protect your reel with some type of rust preventer, so that way it'll really keep that metal nice and clean, and you do not end up rusting out your particular reel. Now, on this particular 25-inch Mclane, I would say that it's obviously seen a lot of its better years in the past. Now, although it is probably about, in my estimate, about over 10 years old, it definitely is a very nice mower, even to this day. I feel like there's still plenty of life left on the reel, and it really still does a really great job in cutting. When it comes to the overall build quality, I would say that the Mclane does leave some room for improvement just because of a lot of issues that I read about, and you could even see on some of the comments that people have posted on my videos. So with that, let's go ahead and take a look at the Calfornia Trimmer. And I purchased the Calfornia Trimmer brand new. However, one of the things I will say about the Calfornia Trimmer, I have been extremely happy with the build quality. I do not have any area on my mower that has chipped. If there's any scratches, they're of my own doing. The only thing I would say is on the groove roller and the smooth roller, I wish they went with more of an aluminum type look versus the chrome look, because over time the chrome really starts to wear. That's the only thing I would say that tends to show wear on the Calfornia Trimmer is the front groove roller. or the front smooth roller if you happen to have that one. Everything that I've experienced on the Calfornia Trimmer has been rock solid. So with that, let's go ahead and talk about the Tru-cut. One thing I would say about the Tru-cut compared to every one of the other mowers is the Tru-cut is really built like a tank. This thing feels extremely rock solid. It's almost as if I would have to try to break this in order for it to break. Now, the Mclane and Calfornia Trimmer are durable. However, I would say, though, that I still feel like I have to be careful with them. When it comes to the Tru-cut, not that I want to run this into anything, it really feels like this thing will take out anything in its path. So you could absolutely see when you're spending the amount of money you're spending on a Tru-cut, a lot of it is really going to the build quality. The only thing I would say when I'm looking at this Tru-cut, because of the fact that it is a few years old, is the fact that the paint has chipped in a few of the different areas. But the one area that I find a little bit suspect is the fact that on the grass shield, it is starting to rust. Because of the fact that the grass shield doesn't generally come in contact with other things, I feel like that is more likely from wet grass that was left on the particular mower, and that over time had caused it to really rot out and ultimately to have really chipped away at the paint there. That's why it's so important that anytime you have a reel mower, you properly care for it by either washing it off or blowing off, cutting wet grass. You really want to make sure you clean off your mower before you decide to put away. Now, even though the paint has chipped here on this mower and in some of the other mowers that I can show you, I want to make sure everybody understands this. There are things you can do to protect your paint. I'm a big believer in using ceramic coating or wax on your mowers. I know it sounds like overkill, but it really will keep your paint looking good for years to come, especially if you buy your mower brand new. So with that, let's kind of go ahead and sum up the scores and see how each of these mowers performed, in my opinion. All right, so let me share with you guys on how I rated each of these mowers as it relates to the actual quality. Now, I am factoring in some of the feedback I've received, so let's go ahead and start with the Mclanes. Now, on both Mclanes, whether you're talking about a 20-inch or 25-inch, I've seen the exact same complaints, regardless of what size of mower. So in how I rated each of them, it's really going to have the same score. And where I've rated the Mclane is a 3 out of 5. And the reason why I've given it a 3 out of 5 is just because my experience has been pretty good. However, some other people's experiences probably would have rated that mower a 1, just based on some of the things I read. Now let's talk about the Tru-cut. So the Tru-cut, I would say, is the best built mower. Like I mentioned, it is built like a tank. So I would rate that mower a 4 out of 5. The only reason why I wouldn't give it a 5 out of 5 is just because of the condition of this particular Tru-cut, where I have seen some of the paint problems that I showed you guys on the video. It's the only reason why I can't give it a 5 out of 5. All right, so let's talk about the last mower, which is the Calfornia Trimmer. The Calfornia Trimmer, in my opinion, gets a 5 out of 5. The reason why I'm giving it a 5 out of 5 is because since I've owned this mower, which it's been about 4 years now, I've had 0 issues with it. 0 issues with the reel, 0 issues with the Bedknife, 0 issues with the motor, 0 issues with the wheels, the bearings. Any part of that mower I've never had an issue with. And that is something that really is pretty rare in this day and age. 5 out of 5, what else can I say? All right, so if you're still with me at this point in the video, first of all, thank you, thank you, thank you. And I hope you haven't hit unsubscribe, just because of how long this video is. Trust me, not every video is going to be like this. With that being said, let's go ahead and talk about the most important part of this video, which is which reel mower came out on top. Now, if you guys have been keeping score, I'm sure you probably already know who the winner is. With those results, are you happy? Are you not happy? Are you disappointed? Are you excited? There's a lot of emotions going on, and this video may cause a lot of controversy. In my opinion, the reel mower that came out on top, based on those categories, is the Calfornia Trimmer. The Calfornia Trimmer came in with 30 out of 35 points, and it really did well in almost every one of the categories. Now let's talk about where each of the other mowers fell, because some of those might be your favorite. So let me start with the runner-up. The runner-up was the Tru-cut and came in with 26 total points out of a possible 35. All right, so the next mower up is the 25-inch Mclane GR series. The Mclane received a total of 23 out of 35 points. All right, so the last mower here that received 22 out of a possible 35 points is the 20-inch GR Series Mclane. Right, so when you look at the difference between the 20-inch and 25-inch Mclane, it was only separated by 1 point. Where that 1 point really came down to was the actual cost. I felt that the 25-inch was a better value just because of the fact you cannot find very many 25-inch reel mowers at the cost the Mclane one is asking. All right, so I really enjoyed putting this video together for you. I absolutely love these comparison videos. I wish a lot more of them were out there on YouTube, but that's why I do them. So you guys will have this type of content for you guys to reference so you can ultimately decide which reel mower is best for you. kind of in closing, I'm going to leave you with this question. Do you agree with me or do you disagree with me? And if you disagree or you agree, comment down below, because I absolutely love to hear from you guys. I respond to every single one of my comments. I don't know, I may piss some people off, I may make some people happy, but the bottom line is we're one family when it comes to real mowers, and we're all enthusiasts. So that's the one thing we always have to remember. And as always, be excellent and party on.